In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and he gathered together of the waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass and herbs that yield seed, and the fruit trees that yield fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself and on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the earth, or to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmaments of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, and God sent them in the firmament of heavens to give light on earth, to rule over the day and the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves. Excuse me. We had some kind of bug in our house this week, and I'm over it, but it's still affecting my voice a little bit. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the sea, and let the birds multiply in the earth." So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing of the beasts of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. God blessed them, and he said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "See, I've given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life. I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. Then God saw everything that was made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. That's the entire first chapter of the book of Genesis, which recounts for us God's first act of creation. And I've titled this lesson "In the Beginning." And while we're going to be talking a bit about the act of creation here in these 6 days, we're actually going to zoom out a little bit from that. And we're going to talk about that there are 4 different acts of creation recounted for us in the Bible. 4 times in which God remade the world. The first time, or made the world, the first time is when God created all things. This here in Genesis chapter 1. And it begins in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth with the creation of time, space, and matter, and also of other spirits. It doesn't matter what it is that we point to. If it's not God, He created it. And that alone tells us a lot about God. First of all, it tells us that, as He proclaims about Himself in John, 1 John, God is love. He is a God who desires companionship. Now, throughout eternity, there was the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. And they have a relationship one with another. Even though they are the same God, they are 3 persons. But they can seek the best for one another and have that relationship with one another. But they wanted more companionship than just themselves, and so they created all things. We don't know exactly where the angels fit into all of this creation going on, but concerning our creation, God specifically made us so that we could choose to be with Him for eternity. He didn't want mindless robots, mindless slaves. He wanted creatures made in the image of God having the choice to either reject Him or be with Him. It's all part of His eternal plan. See, all things were made good by Him here in Genesis chapter 1. Everything has its purpose and its place. Everything is useful, and nothing is wasted space or effort. And I firmly believe that everything in this world has its place. It can be misused disastrously. There's choose all sorts of things. This one's a little bit more controversial, I guess. There's a plant known as cannabis, right? And there are people who smoke it recreationally, just to get a buzz, to get a high. And that's dangerous for a multitude of reasons. First of all, losing control of yourself and becoming dependent on something is not a great idea. But it seems, a lot of uses in the treatment of certain illnesses. It seems that God gave it to us for a purpose, for a use. There are men who misuse it, but when God created it, He made it very good. And the list of things like that could go on and on. Alcohol is also abused. There are people who get blackout drunk every Friday and maybe Saturday. And again, just like with cannabis, it's not a great idea to become dependent on something and to lose control of yourself, to not be accountable for what it is that you're doing. The Bible speaks against such actions. But there's lots of uses to alcohol. It's very useful in the creation of other things. Alcohol has all sorts of industrial uses. And besides industrial uses, it's a very good antiseptic. If you have like a cut or something and you pour a little bit of alcohol on it, it will keep it clean and keep it from getting infected. And there are all sorts of applications outside of just using it to get drunk and intoxicated. It's a solvent, for one thing. That's one of its industrial uses. Anything that water can't dissolve, the next thing you try is alcohol, and it generally works. And then you can take whatever you dissolved and you can do all sorts of things now that it's suspended in some liquid. So I'm a very firm believer that everything has its purpose and its place. Everything God created and everything that he put in place that could exist in his world, it's all there for a purpose. It's all there for a reason. It's our job as the stewards of the earth, as he establishes, as he tells man, be fruitful and multiply, have dominion over the earth and the sea. He's telling Adam, you're a steward of the earth now. It's yours to do with as you please. Now, as stewards, you're supposed to take care of it. He's a gardener. That's what Adam's created as, a tender of the field. Someone who's supposed to take care of the earth. Yes, he has dominion over it, but he's supposed to take care of it. But it's all there for Adam to use, to utilize. And God encourages him to discover about it. One of my favorite areas of study is biology. You know who the first biologist was? It was Adam. God said, here's all the animals I created. I want you to name them. That's an act of biology, is to differentiate between the animals and to give them names. But in this act of creation, we see that all things are made through him, they're all made good by him, and these are all known to him. The foresight of God is different than him willing everything to happen, but he's able to use any event towards his plan and goal because he knows the exact move that everyone is going to make. It doesn't override their free will. It just means he knows how it's going to play out. He knows what you're going to do, and he can work with that. The example that's often used is, if you're standing on a sidewalk and you watch some kid whiz past you on a bicycle going way too fast and there's a house at the end of the street, do you know what's going to happen to that kid? Did you cause it? No, you watched it happen. Well, in the same way, God doesn't cause evil to happen. He knows it's going to happen. But there's something unique and special about mankind's free will that necessitates that he allows it to happen. But because he had to allow things to happen, we see the second act of creation in the scriptures, not but 6 chapters after the first one. The world had become so wicked, the thought of every man's heart was evil continually. I don't know if we can properly imagine what a world like that is like. I think some people have gotten close with their with descriptions of it or similar things. And there are probably people in the world today who are like that. But imagine a world in which everyone is like that, except for 8 people. A world in which you could generously, or not so generously, which you could conservatively estimate there might be somewhere around 1 billion people. That might sound like a lot, but remember, they've got about 2,000 years. It seems like the women of of the days before Moses were fertile for about 200 to 300 years. And no one died until they were close to 900. And you start doing all those calculations, and the number of people skyrockets a lot faster than it would in today's world, where people only live like 100 years max. And, women are only fertile for about a 30-year window, give or take a little bit. It's a lot different. And then everyone in this society is plotting how to engage in the most amount of sin. And they don't just have 100 years to figure out how to be as evil as they can. They have 900 years. Probably about 700 of those years being about as strong as a 40-year-old man is today. And the amount of vile wickedness that could happen in that kind of world, I don't think we could properly imagine. And so the Bible tells us that the Lord uses the phrase repented of making man. Not that God can experience remorse, but it tells us the kind of visceral rejection of the state of the world that God has. And so God remakes it. When the world was at its worst, he remade it. He's able to use whatever we have. He's able to remake us. That's one of the lessons of the story of Noah, is that God is able to take good out of anything, any situation, and bring it to the forefront. Even if there's just 8 people left in a world of maybe 1 billion people, God is able to take them and remake the world. And regardless of how little good you've done in your life, God is able to take it and to remake you. And I think that's beautiful. Do we desire a closeness with God because he wants a relationship with us as well? One of the other stories about the flood is that Noah preached the whole 100 years he was building the ark. God did not give up on those people. He had Noah preach to them. Come, you can be saved. You can be redeemed. God will take you back. You don't have to be this evil continually. No one listened. But God still desires a relationship with anyone who has been made in his image. He's ready to answer any genuine call. And we have other stories about that beside that. There's Rahab. She lives in Jericho. She's a harlot, a prostitute. She has one of the most, if not the most sinful job you can have in a society filled with sinful people doing sinful things that are unspeakably terrible. That's the society that Rahab lives in. A society that values human life so little, they would offer it to their false gods without a moment's hesitation. But because she chooses God and not her people, God spares her. Not only does he spare her, but he adds her to the line of the lineage of Christ. See, God can take the darkest hour and bring about magnificence and beauty. He's able to use you if you're willing to be used. And he's not going to abuse you in that use. Instead, he's going to bring about something beautiful, something amazing. We see the third act of creation nearly 2,000 years after the second act of creation. The third act of creation is when God restored the world. And he restored the world by sending his Son. His Son came, lived as a man, was crucified, and rose again 3 days later. And in that act, he rewrote all of history. It wasn't as visceral a reconstruction as, it wasn't as destructive a reconstruction of the world as the flood in Noah's day. But one could argue it's had a greater effect on history after the crucifixion than the flood did on the world after the flood. After the flood, there were still wicked nations. There were still wicked people. There were still wicked things that men were doing. As I just covered, there was even a society, the Canaanites, that seemed to have got at least almost as bad as the people before the flood. But the cross is different. The cross reshapes things wherever it goes. I think the most visceral case in point that I can think of to prove how restorative the cross is. In Japanese culture, the samurai would take the younger samurai men before a battle, have relations with them in order to boost their fighting spirit. And this was just considered normal. You know what stopped that practice? The introduction of Christianity. Not even the adoption of Christianity as a state religion, just the mere presence of Christianity in their society stopped that practice immediately. See, God restored the world when he sent his Son. He takes those who wander away and he buys them back. There is no price too big and there's no lamb too small. Right? That's the story of the 90 and 9 and the one who walked away. And he had 100 sheep. One of them goes off and wanders out of the flock. And what's the good shepherd do? He leaves the 90 and 9 with his farm hands, and he goes and he seeks the one that's lost and brings it back. A lesser shepherd would just be like, well, I've got 99 sheep, and that one's just lost. That just sometimes happens. But our shepherd desires that all men should come to repentance. And this is the founder of our faith, the one who bled and died for our sins, the one who wants nothing more than to spend an eternity with us. Just as Hosea redeemed his bride, so too will God redeem his own. Hosea is probably my favorite minor prophet because he tells the story of God's relationship with his people through his own life. Hosea was instructed to marry a woman who had also been a prostitute like Rahab before her. They had 3 children, and then his wife left. And eventually, Hosea finds her again. She's in a worse state than when he married her, and he buys her back and takes her home. And that's the story of God's people. It's the story of Israel. God's people leaves him, yet still God is faithful and longs to be the God of his people. And in a very real way, our own lives mirror these acts of creation. First, God makes us perfect and good in the image of God. A baby is born without sin. Some people teach that a baby inherits the sin of Adam. But that's not true. That's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible says, the soul that sins shall die. The father shall not bear the guilt of the son, nor the son the guilt of the father. The baby is born precious and pure in the sight of God, and it is that child's own actions as they get older, when they fall short of the glory of God, that separates them from the God who created them. Because they do things that mirror their forefather Adam. But it is not Adam's guilt that lies on them, it is their own. And so we corrupt ourselves, and then God remakes us. He remakes us and restores us to his glory. And there's that 4th final act of creation that we see recounted for us in the book of Revelation, in the last few chapters, where we see a new heaven and a new earth. When God finally destroys this physical realm and brings us home to be with him for eternity in heaven, it will be his last act of creation, when he gives us a new body and a new home and a new name. Are we ready to accept that destination? Are we on the path that leads there? If there's anyone here who needs to respond to an invitation to come and to start walking the path that leads to that last act of creation, to be remade and to be restored in God's image. Is anyone here who needs to respond to that invitation? If you need prayers, if there's any way that the church here can help, we usually come forward as we stand and sing our invitation song.